What we are seeing in Nigeria today is an evidence of a collapsed system, of a failed state. You can imagine a country where overseas top military hierarchies were intercepted, ambushed by the Boko Haram, by the terrorists within the defined territory known as Nigeria. And one by one, they are being executed. Look at the case of General Musa. Look at the case of General Brigadier uh, M. Oba and the rest of them. It is quite a very horrifying situation. And this is happening within the Nigerian territory. If that could happen to such high profile military officers of such caliber, then what hope is left for the lower cadres? I strongly believe that these military officers, we are not just the only people in the convoy. What about the combatant men? Why perhaps they are being mentioned is because of their rank, their hierarchy in the military. So what about other foot soldiers of lower ranks, which means they are gone? If the generals could not be spared, then what will guarantee that the lower hierarchy will be spared? What does that tell you? That Tinubu's government lacks the capacity to handle this. It's beyond the scope of the Nigerian military. As it is now, it has gotten to the point that this should be a global concern. Now, citing the position of one of the senators at the Senate plenaries, he made it very clear. He said that Tinubu should not pretend about this. This is beyond the Nigerian Defense Headquarters, is beyond the Nigerian military. In fact, Nigerian security architecture has no capacity to contend with these escalations, with this level of terrorism that is high-wired network across international communities, backed up by external forces with the conspiracy of the local champions. So that is the situation we found ourselves in Nigeria today. And Tinubu should no longer continue to live in denial of the reality. There is a serious conspiracy against Tinubu's administration. If he have not known that, if nobody have told him, then let him hear it from Chigozie Igbo. What is going on now is beyond the capacity of Tinubu. He should seek for external military assistance, just as the US have offered to take out these terrorists. If you listen to the recent statement by Sheikh Gumi, he said, if America threatens to go to war with Russia, then Russia will activate their nukes, their nuclear weapons. Invariably, what he's saying, because America threatened military operation, intervention in Nigeria, and hence the terrorists have raised alarm. They have activated the escalations. They have activated their strong men, and you can see what is happening within these few days. Adoption of over 100 KB secondary school gears. You know what that means? Over 100. You know what that means? Because if they have invaded such secondary school, virtually nobody will possibly escape. And I strongly believe that the population of that secondary school is not 100. It's not 100. It might run into 500 or 1,000 plus. You know what happened to these people in the hands of the terrorists? That is what we are saying. And some people decide to live in denial. Look at the position or the statement of the Islamic State of West African province. This is a total declaration of war. They have declared war against the Nigerian sovereign state, but unfortunately, the Nigerian government have not accepted, have not realized or live in that consciousness. You can imagine the days where you dare not even speak to a military man, let alone killing a military man, an ordinary combat military cadre. What did they call it again? The lowest cadre of the military. You see, the entire community will be shaken because for a possible reprisal attack, now generals, brigadiers are being tied like ram, taken to the slaughter and being chopped off in Nigeria. Not one, not twice. Generals, brigadiers, and the rest of them. Top military hierarchies have been executed and their security being compromised. Look at what's happened in the case of Brigadier General Ught. The previous reports released by the military defense headquarters is that he's safe and nothing has happened to him. In fact, some narrated that he walked down to the barrack, to the base, that they were not able to overrun them. They overpowered the Islamic State of West African province, blah, blah, blah. You know, all the deceptive propaganda that doesn't add up. But at the end of the day, the truth will surface. Now, people are now asking, how was his location compromised, intercepted? Using the word intercepted implies two things. One is either among the military hierarchies, his location was betrayed, or again, in the course of conversation, the Islamic State of West African province have a sophisticated tracking system or device that could intercept his location and the coordinates and signals to the foot soldiers, the Islamic militants on ground to go after him, which means everybody in this country is in trouble. It shouldn't be a surprise. We've seen cases where the terrorists are using unmanned military vehicles, drones, and anti-aircrafts in their assault against the military operations. So it shouldn't be a surprise that an expert, they have teams of experts and well-sponsored operations that can intercept the cause, any military conversations going on among the military network, to the point that they could get exact coordinates of where his locations, even when he escaped, allegedly in the first instance, but they were able to overrun whatever protocols or whatever intention to escape. Of course, you saw his military camouflage sustain some trace of blood from the video we saw in the internet. He was wounded already. So how could he have escaped or used leg to return to, of course, his military base or camp? All this deceptive propaganda sponsored by certain vested interests in the military does not help issues. But sadly, The same Islamic State of West African province said he was intercepted, his location was intercepted or compromised, and if they eventually tracked him to where he is, and after rigorous interrogations on the state's secrets and plans, they executed him. They got the entire message, the entire informations they needed about the Nigerian system and the next line of action of the defense headquarters. And eventually they executed him because they have gotten whatever they needed to do, to have at their disposal. And you think that Nigeria is winning, will win this war. But anyone thinking that might be living in the world of fantasy with the current onslaught of the military. This one is no longer just ordinary military men, combatant men. These are high profile security officers have been targeted. That implies they are now mopping up. They are mopping up the entire security system. They are mopping up with serious energy, with serious advances. And this should be a concern to anyone living today. That anyone living today should be bothered about what is going on. These people have activated their war experts and everything they needed to do. Look at the massive push. They are coming with fire and brimstone. Look at what is happening. Several operations happening simultaneously, almost at the same time, at different locations. Look at Niger, look at Zamfara killings, look at Kebbi, abductions and killings. Look at the military, fallen victim, successful onslaught against the military. If the commander do not survive, then how will the foot soldiers survive? The most person that should have been protected is the commander. Or why was he abandoned even when he sustained injury? Why did his team abandon him and left him alone to eventually fall in the hands of the terrorists who dealt with him the way they so desire? It's rather unfortunate, but that is the reality. He died defending Nigeria. But what we cannot deny is either his location was compromised or intercepted by a sophisticated tracking system at the disposal of the terrorists. Now the question is, how can a high-profile military officer of such caliber not have a manual GPS tracking device? That the military could not evacuate him even after putting call. The Air Force could not track him to know his exact location. No. How could such person, even an average Nigerian military personnel, a combatant soldier, should have this manual GPS tracking device so that his location, their location could be picked up, his exact coordinate could be picked up in the case of emergency or unforeseeable circumstances, because you're going to war. War means death. And you can't fathom such possibilities. You can factor the possibilities of anything eventually happening. And this, you can't deny the reality. You can't deny the reality. That is just the simple truth. So, why is this such? Why is it so? That I cannot understand, honestly. That I find it very difficult to swallow. A high profile military officer. You know what that means? Brigadier General. General Brigadier. Oh my goodness. And does not have a tracking, even a manual tracking device, GPS, that could track his exact coordinate in a world that have moved on in terms of digitalization, innovation, and the rest of them. Military wares, even with your local balasa phone, you can track somebody who stole your phone. If you have certain the other apps that could help you track where the stolen phone location is. So how comes that a renowned military personnel serving in Nigerian Defense Force does not have ordinary manual GPS tracking device that could tell the exact location where he is? Possibly that would have saved him if the Air Force came to disperse the terrorists as they allege, and eventually before they regroup or whatever happens, we may not have the exact truth of what transpired, because I'm even scared. Who do we trust? Who do we believe? If sometimes even the military or the spokesperson might be given a very different narrative that is far from being the truth, then who do you trust? That is a problem. They have given us every reason to doubt their statements sometimes. You are denying that the military were ambushed and overrun. You now said that they were able to repel the terrorists and disperse them with the help intervention of the Air Force and blah, 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 blah. The man was safe and secured. He has gone back to his base. He walked all through to this base, and eventually we are hearing a different story from the same Islamic State of West African province with evidence debunking your lies and deceptive propaganda pushed out there. Now, how will the citizens trust the military intelligence and information? Nobody is happy that these gallant men, of course, defending their fatherland. Unfortunately, the same fatherlands never cared for them. How could you not equip a brigadier with such state-of-the-art facilities, with such this modern tracking system devices that would, even if locate wherever there is an ambush or any sophisticated weapon within that coordinates? These things are possible. These things are possible in this modern world. You can track if there is any one holding AK-47 or any such device, any lethal weapon within that same axis. I don't really understand why the lives of these soldiers will continue to be wasted. It's rather unfortunate. Some might say, of course, they signed up for that, but they didn't sign up to die because they need to live to protect the sovereign state of Nigeria. They didn't sign to die. They signed to defend, to live to defend the Nigerian territorial integrity. But sadly, what is that telling us? That the entire security, national security has collapsed. And whether you believe it or not, Tinubu, I pitied him. Well, I wouldn't say I pitied him because he was part of the APC who conspired against Jonathan. They brought all these militia groups thinking they could distort or set up a parallel government to destabilize Jonathan's administration. But unfortunately, today he is inheriting the same calamity. He wished Jonathan today. The tension of the Chibok gears have doused and that have disappeared. What are we seeing today? He is caught in that same web of conspiracy. What is going on is serious high-wired conspiracy against Tinubu's administration. And this might cost him his re-election bid. The northern political oligarchs are doing whatever. They are pushing hard, knowing fully well that Tinubu, they don't want Tinubu. There comes 2027. And perhaps he have not understood this, possibly might be playing to the gallery, trying to be politically correct, and the rest of them defending the indefensible. But the reality is staring at us. America, of course, are observing this development that they don't have the capacity to contend with all this. Why not accept the reality and invite America, do whatever you think you can to help us? And that possibly would have saved his image and his government or any intention of re-election bid. But currently, as what is happening with this KB secondary school gets adopted, that will finally seal. We finished Tinubu. Let's see how they will go about the rescue of these innocent children, secondary schools, predominantly Christian population, Christian communities. And someone who sip water will tell you that there is no genocide against Christians. In the next edition, if you're joining us for the first time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more political updates. Turn on the notification button so that you can get our videos once it's been uploaded. In the next edition, I'll be sharing with you a revelation that over 5,000 pastors just in the north has been killed in the last few years. Over 5,000, I'm not saying members or other Christian, of course, faithfuls, 5,000 pastors, qualified registered pastors, has been killed in this onslaught against Christian population.